You know I'm sponsored now, so you got to be polite in the chat. Or PG-13, maybe PG-15 channel now. Like, cursing's okay, but you got to do it with a little flavor text. What's up, everybody? How you doing? My name is Hero. This is Coding with Strangers, and I want to talk about something. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on in the tech industry, and to kind of give you the TLDR, Microsoft has spent a lot of money, ungodly amount of money, about 19 billion on OpenAI and their resources. So it's become quite apparent that they need a return on their investment. But looking down the line, putting a pin in OpenAI and looking down the line, a big reason why gathering information is so important to OpenAI is because it's quickly becoming apparent that OpenAI and stuff like that, artificial intelligence, quotations, is turning into a arms race for data. Go figure. But the antitrust ruling that came down today against Google will stifle Google's ability to not only gather that information, it almost certainly pending litigation of a bunch of appeals and things of that nature has leveled the playing field for other dealers in the AI universe to get in on the ability to do what Google has essentially created a verb of their name. I'm going to Google this. You turn the proper pronoun into a verb that people use to identify something. It's similar like Uber and stuff like that. When you think of searching for something, Google's the first place you go. And we're going to cover exactly what's going on and how this affects the grand scheme of things, but it's just so important to pay attention to these things because it's the quintessential line from like Godzilla, let these boys fight, because when two companies are at each other's neck, a lot of stuff comes to light about the horrendous practices they have behind closed doors, and these legal documents make them readily available for us to understand and gain some transparency, but also understand how to maneuver. What's your next move? If you have one, if you even need to plan one, let's get into it. There's no price Microsoft could pay Apple to use Bing. All the spiciest parts of Google's antitrust ruling. Finally, a legal ruling on whether TikTok is real search engine. It's not. Damn. Naila Patel and Sarah Jian, August 6th, 2024. That's today. Bills due on the 10th. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. Also, you can hit the little thank you button. You can hit the thank you button, and you can also hit the join button. That's new on YouTube. It's new on YouTube. But yeah, the opinion in the Google search antitrust case published Monday is extremely long because it is a bench trial. Judge Amit Mehta was on the hook to make factual findings as well as legal findings. So there are over 100 pages of findings of facts and even more of conclusions of laws, adding up to 286-page document replete with footnotes, redactions, and even an illustration graphic of a search result for golf shorts, which apparently came up a lot at trial. Oh man, I love it that this judge had to become an algorithm god in order to be able to navigate this situation, and the simplistic version of this conversation dwells down to golf shorts. Man, golf is getting a lot of wins. Golf was part of the talk during the debate. Now is in this ruling. Golf is on the up and up, man. The ruling in the United States versus Google. Oh, so the United States brought this against Google. Shout out to the FTC. Shout out to the FTC. That's Lena Hahn right there, baby. Is a lot to take in. Some of it was previously reported in the press over the course of the week-long trial. But here, the judge has inadvertently compiled the trial's greatest hits, catty quotes from executives, embarrassing internal studies, and a bunch of surprising deets about the multi-billion-dollar contract that keeps Google the default search engine in Safari. Oh, yeah, this is going to be great. Apple thinks Bing is pretty bad. Clap it. If anybody ever says like, "Oh, why was Spider-Man 2 with not Tobey Maguire, with Andrew Garfield wasn't good," it's because of the Bing placement. That's what everybody says. But he made a comeback. He's everyone's favorite Spider-Man now after that movie with all three of them. He's the best. Google pays Apple billions of dollars a year to default search engine in Safari, but according to Eddie Q, Apple's senior vice president of services, there's no other meaningful alternative during the trial. Golly. He said that there's no price that Microsoft could ever offer to Apple to get the company to preload Bing in Safari. Wow. I don't believe that there's a price in the world that Microsoft could offer us, Q said. At another point, they offered to give us Bing for free. They could give us the whole company. My goodness, this is getting out of hand. For Google, this is a sign that they've earned their default status, which incidentally they pay Apple gobs of money to maintain. Judge Mehta said that in his indications that the market reality is that Google is the only real choice as the default GSE, general search engine. Of course, Q's opinion doesn't mean Bing is objectively bad. Elsewhere, the opinion notes that Bing's search quality is comparable to Google on desktop, though it falls behind on mobile. Yeah, a lot of people have said this before. It's kind of one of those stranger things that but when you want to get past like very popular, like say for example, you're looking for something extremely exclusive, or that's something that's like, for example, something's very popular is happening in the news, like Kamala Harris is in the news, but you want to research like her in the past, like in 2014. If you go to Google and just search Kamala Harris history, it'll give you all the current stories a day or two in the past. Bing is a little bit more specific in that aspect, and I have experienced that on several occasions. These are Fortune 500 companies, and they have nowhere else to turn other than Google. In addition, Apple, Google also have contracts that with cell phone carriers, devices manufacturers, to be the default search engine on Android's devices. These contractors operate a little differently since they hinge on Google's control of Google Play Store. It is not just Eddie Q refusing to give Bing the time of day. All of these companies recognize Google as the only game in town. None of these Fortune 500 companies have a real choice in the matter. Sheesh. Google understands that it is not a genuine competition for the default because it knows that its partners cannot afford to go elsewhere. The judge writes, damn, okay, so they've made it painfully clear that even if they wanted to go somewhere, the contracts are too restrictive and the pipelines aren't set up in place. If you're literally building what they mentioned earlier, later on in this, is that some of these things are built hardwired, like it's hard coded onto the device that Google's going to be the default. So even if you want to bring something else into the fray, a bunch of phones will be deemed obsolete. So imagine saying you have to buy a new phone in order to use the search engine you want to use. No real consumer is going to do that, and no real product line is going to allow that to happen. Time and time again, Google partners have concluded that it's financially infeasible to switch to default GSE or seek greater flexibility in search offering because it would mean sacrificing the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars Google pays them in revenue. What are the terms of Google Apple contracts anyway? This is where it gets funny. According to the opinion, in return for exclusive and non-exclusive default placement, users download Chrome and Safari default bookmarks. Google pays Apple a redacted percentage of net ad revenue, which amounted to $20 billion in 2022. Okay, and that is what's so terrifying. The ad revenue, the search results. That's what Google really wants. They want to be able to have access to that. And why is that so scary for Microsoft now? Well, Microsoft is going to have OpenAI being on an Apple device, almost exclusively paired to them. And if Google has the ability to access, or dare I say tunnel, create a pipeline, like if you have to go through Google's pipeline, that Google has control of that information. And they could slow it down. They could minimize your scope of your search. They could do a bunch of things that Microsoft. So don't get me wrong here. It's not a situation where we have a good guy versus a bad guy. They're both dog water. They're both dog water. It's just that one of them has a better contract than the other one. And it's starting to show. Fascinating. Google and Apple entered into a present contract in 2016. Their dealing dates way further back around then. Apple rolled out a suggestion. Think, for example, when you're typing something out into the spotlight and Apple suggests a website to you, that's not the same as Google search. This was significant. One Google analysis estimated a query loss of 10 to 15% of Safari's traffic and a revenue loss of 4 to 10% in iOS Safari revenue based on Apple's suggestions. Damn. Okay. So there's numbers to back this up. So basically they're saying, statistically speaking, based on whatever phone whatever phone you're using, and this is true for me. I do have Google on my phone, but when I click on the open stuff, even the way it's ordered, if Safari's on top, I'm just gonna you're gonna click on the first one. So they noticed a noticeable drop off in their revenue, or differential in their revenue. Apple implementation of Safari default must remain substantially similar to prior implementations so that Apple could not expand farther than they were doing, lest Apple bleed off traffic. These days, when it comes to iPhone specifically, Google receives almost 95% of all general search queries. The terms of the 2016 contract seem to have worked out for both companies. Google and Apple extended the agreement in 2021. The contract will expire in 2026. Apple can unilaterally extend the agreement by 2 years, and if both parties agree, they can extend the contract even further, all the way out to 2031. Part of the contract obligation, both Google and Apple to defend this agreement, is respond to regulatory actions, e.g. the DOJ antitrust lawsuit like this one. Golly. So they basically are, Apple's okay. This is like a bad divorce. Microsoft and Google are divorcing, and they're fighting over Apple. And Apple's like, I fuck with Dad. I like him. He's cool. But Mom, Microsoft, she's a little bit too strict. She makes me do chores. Dad just lets me eat ice cream for dinner. It sounds good now, but it's gonna cause problems in the future. What it would take for Apple to challenge Google, according to the judge, is not just that Google pays Apple not to challenge its search supremacy. It would be unbelievably difficult for Apple to get in on the action at all. Unsurprisingly, both Google and Apple have looked into this, and in their own internal estimates came out at trial. Apparently, Apple has calculated that it would cost $6 billion annually on top of what it is already spending developing search capabilities to return GSE. Meanwhile, in late 2020, Google estimated how much it would cost Apple to create and maintain a GSE that could compete with Google. Apple would have to spend something in the rough order of $20 billion in order to reproduce Google's technical infrastructure dedicated to search. Okay, that's kind of scary to know that Google, that was in 2020. So today it could be anywhere. That number could be anywhere. And the infrastructure Google has is truly terrifying. And it's not far off to say that Google does control the internet. And this is a great article. I'll leave it in behind. The last part we're going to cover is just the AI revolution. Because Google literally controls the internet, and I don't think that's a one-off thing. That's a hard thing to say. It makes anybody who's trying to make a business have to go through Google. You have to appease the Google algorithm gods in order to do that. And take it from me as a person who is currently who's literally on his first day on the job as being a partner with YouTube, who is owned by Google. I had to learn the system in order to reach the success that I reached. But it doesn't come without a price, right? It doesn't come without the wherewithal of understanding how important or how impeccable it is to have a free market truly be a free market, right? This doesn't scream, or this doesn't lift to an orders of having a free market, and that's why if this antitrust law does stick, we shouldn't see any problems with this. We should be able to have multiple forms of research, multiple forms of searching and search engines across multiple platforms, and not feel delineated or downgraded because we're using them. The free market dictates, if the free market truly does dictate that Google is the best of the best, then let there be competition and let the competition wash out. The reason why this is so scary, taking it back to the Amazing Spider-Man quote, is because when we actually got to see all three of the Spider-Mans next to each other, we realized that Andrew Garfield really was the GOAT. And that when they're separated, it's easy to say nostalgia is why I like Tobey Maguire, or Iron Man is why I like Tom Holland. But the truth of the matter is, Andrew Garfield had it the roughest, and he made it the best. He was the best, and I think that's something to live on. So I hope this judge keeps this. I hope this judge really does keep this principle. I know there's going to be a bunch of appeals, and literally this thing could be dragged out till 2031. But if it does stick, there's some dude in their basement right now creating the next. The crazy thing about it, even the idea of searching for something is built synonymously with Google. But there's someone out there building a revolutionized version of the search engine. And to be honest, that revolutionized search version of the engine is OpenAI. So the fact that we are entering into an age where information gets to us faster because of artificial intelligence is impeccable. The fact that Google might hinder that in order to keep their supremacy over the tech world is truly terrifying. So good on the judge. Let me know what you guys think. Like, share, subscribe. Y'all know I got the little thank you and the join button now. Who's gonna be the first person to support me on YouTube? I'm waiting. I appreciate y'all. Take care of yourselves.